problem that worries me the most right now, and this has a lot to do with kind of the research questions that I'm interested in, is this national security motivation for a lot of trade and industrial policy. And it's definitely something that's happening in the United States, but it's also happening in Europe, and it's happening in China and Asia and other countries as well. And I think there's a couple problems with it, one of which is that we've broadened the concept of national security so much that it includes economic security, traditional defense, and other things about, well, are we going to be able to get medicines and vaccines and things in a timely manner? But also that I don't think that trade policy and industrial policy are capable of sort of solving a lot of these issues. And so that, in the longer run, we may end up, we're chasing after a goal with policies that aren't going to be able to deliver what we want. It causes all of us, including, policymakers, world leaders, to think about relationships with other countries in a very zero-sum way. And so the national security motivation for a lot of these policies, I think, is taking the thinking, if you look at what politicians are saying, including world leaders at the G20, it's taking their thinking to a place that I haven't seen it in a long time, where they'll actually say things like, well, we think it's less likely that China will invade Taiwan because their economy is not doing very well. That's not a new idea, but I haven't heard politicians speak like that, for 50 to 60 years. We should actually be thinking, or I would hope we would be thinking that, hey, if everyone is doing well and we're cooperating internationally on different agreements and on international trade and on making, the pie bigger, that in that sense, we should be less likely to have conflict. I think there's still hope out there. We're still signing new treaties. They're coming up with new agreements on how do we manage fisheries so they don't get depleted. And so there's scope for international cooperation out there. And I think the diplomats are still talking, and they may be talking about different things in the background than their leaders are saying to the newspaper. And so we can continue to try and give, policymakers the best advice that we can to the extent that they're listening to us, and we can make progress.